Driving it home with Patti Vasquez, Patti Vasquez.
From global conflicts to greenhouse gases, the folks refusing to wear masks says, and politicians getting caught grabbing ass says, she's driving it home with Patti Vasquez.
Hello and happy Wednesday, I guess. With the weather, it's hard to say happy, but I'll say it anyway. It's very, it is appropriately autumnal. It's cold. It's drizzly out. It's, I mean, what were we thinking? It's November. It's the middle. It's mid to late November. Thanksgiving is a week and a day away. I have been busy preparing my house because, as you can imagine, for some folks, prioritizing keeping a tidy house can be difficult if you are never quite the tidiest person to begin with, and your entire family has a high tolerance for clutter, as it seems each and every one of us does. So we are trying to get ready for Thanksgiving. And I say that because, look, my husband has a lot on his hands as the primary caregiver for Declan, and making sure that Declan's at Declan has appointments, has physical therapy, stretch therapy, hippotherapy. He's in therapy about 5 days a week. And because I work during the day, I'm here, I'm doing stand-up comedy, doing appearances. I'm on the board of One Name Illinois. Things like cleaning the house can tend to fall through the cracks a little bit. So we have been doing that on and off for the last few days. I also I'm aware of where I am emotionally, folks. I think that we all need to take a deep breath and figure out what that is. Because if you listen to the show to have these conversations, to figure out what's going on next, how we're going to prepare ourselves for the next weeks, months, and years to come, we have to be very honest about our mental health. And actually, the people who hate listen, I encourage you to also take care of your mental health. If you're listening and laughing and this really gets you off, figure out what that is too. But I have learned some really just heartbreaking news in the last few hours about a friend of mine. If those of you who listen to the show regularly might remember that earlier this year I was taking time off to go visit friends in Los Angeles and help care for a friend of mine who is battling cancer. She had undergone surgery for tongue cancer, and it was extreme. They had to do an extensive surgery and then aggressive chemotherapy. And I was out there to help with where I could with appointments and being, staying company with her, taking care. Please, folks, if you have someone in your life that is dealing with that, you can join them and help them out. If they need a car tune-up, if they need their garbage taken out, if they need Uber Eats, think of something because sometimes we just go, what can I do to help? And I went out there to see what I could do. So imagine, maybe you have a friend who is undergoing, maybe even someone who's just had a baby, go rake their lawn or hire a landscaping service for things that they might typically do. So those are some of the things that I was out helping with earlier this year, and taking my friend Kristen to some of her doctor's appointments and sitting by her, just being there. And I also know, because I have had friends who I have lost over the years, that there comes a point where our friends need to narrow their circle of exposure to the emotions and being with somebody. And so I learned recently that her cancer had spread, that they were going to do, again, aggressive chemo, and the plan was to go through December. But recently they have decided that it was not accomplishing what they had hoped, that she was suffering very much. And so now the plan is to help my dear friend Kristen stay comfortable. So, I'm just managing those emotions, and I've been trying to process this for the last. I actually learned yesterday. So, as a performer, and I've been doing stand-up comedy for 30 years, I've gone through moments in my life that are just the hardest things possible, and I still stand up to a microphone and talk. So it helped me a lot, actually, to have my good friend Joe Kilgallen in studio yesterday and talk about the news and talk about just I think I did mention yesterday this exchange I had at the dentist's office with this guy who accosted me on the street because I was standing too close to his BMW. I will tell you, that guy, the reason I reacted so strongly is a combination of what's going on in the news and in my personal life. I mean, this dude, just to catch you up, I was on my way to the dentist's office yesterday, and in Chicago we have parking meters, but you don't pay the meter. I know in some parts of the country we still have actual meters where you put coins and sometimes a credit card. Here we have a pay box. You go to the box, you put in your credit card, you get a slip and you put it in your dashboard, or there's a sign that tells you what the area number is for that block, and you have an app and you type it in. So I had gotten out of my car and I was not parked next to the pole that had the number. So I walked down the street a little bit in the street and stopped close to the pole. I don't have great vision, both near or far. Like, I'm somewhere in between where I had to step a little bit closer to see what the numbers were on the sign. I start getting blurry at about 7 feet. So I was about 2 feet from a parked BMW. And this guy comes up behind me and was like, "Can I help you with something?" And you guys, I was so caught off guard. And I said, "Excuse me." And he goes, "That's my car. Can I help you with something?" And he only got like a tidbit of what I wanted to say to him, Lady B, because I was like, "And is that your parking sign?" And I don't think he understood. I found out from the dentist later, the guy's from the suburbs, so maybe he doesn't know we have an app, and I needed the freaking numbers that were just right next to his car. But because I was feet from his car, Lady B, and this guy wanted to come at me. "Can I help you?" Like in the most condescending, just jerky way. And so I said, "Is that your parking sign too?" And he goes, "Yeah, it's paid parking." Like, he was thrown off. I'm like, I'm thrown off too. Like, why do I have to come into your, mental state to, like, you impeded on my boundaries. Anyway, so I lost my cool there, because when I walked away, I just walked away. I'm not sure what else I said to him, but across the street, I perhaps yelled at him that perhaps he was like a male body appendage, and then walked into my dentist's office. "Oh, that's right, you weren't here, Lady." So I went into the bathroom. I told the ladies at the reception desk that I told them as I walked in that I had this weird exchange with somebody in the street. I go to the bathroom, Lady B, I come out, he's in the lobby. So part of me is wondering, has he followed me in? But he seems to have. He goes, "What are you doing here?" Now, this is the second time he unnecessarily asked me a question that's none of his freaking business. You can come on the mic. You can join me. Hi. Yeah, hold on. Let me see. Is it me or is it you? It might be. I'm going to say it to you this time, because I don't know. And then, or Matt Cummings can come in. No? I can't hear you. Oh, no. Why can't I do that? Let me see. Not in Q. OL. That's on. What other buttons do I need to I don't know what buttons. Hey, Matt, calling the station operations manager, Matt Cummings. Can you please see me in the studio to help me out with the buttons so I can listen to my producer on the air? Paging Matt Cummings. Let's see if the door opens. Okay, so because yeah, I'm sorry, Lady B. I don't know other buttons. I'm looking at all the lights. You guys, it's like a airplane panel for me to figure out how to make sure everything is working. Extension 1? No? Does that work? No, not that one. A, B, C, O, L on the bottom right. A, B. Let's see. A or B. Let's try that. Let's see. What did I do? I just saw a bunch of lights go on. No, I can't hear you. O, L, B, A. Nope, Matt's not coming in the studio. No one wants to. We'll have to figure. Lady's like, "I'll just go fix it myself. We'll fix it later." Here, so I will. I feel like I need to share this with you, though. Let's take a break and we'll fix it, so I can go through this story with it. Because I get the sense, like, Joe as a guy, Joe Kilgallen, who was here yesterday, I think as a guy was like, yeah, that's kind of messed up. But I think as women, I'm just so done with white guys getting in my freaking space. And okay. So I will reset, and so Lady B can join me in this conversation. We'll figure out why I can't hear him. More in a moment on WCPT 820 Heartland Signals. I'll take your calls as well at 773-763-9278. More in a moment, because I want to share this story with my friend Lady B.
Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive.
Greg is on the line from Lake in the Hills.
I always recommend your show to everybody. I just really like your style. I like that you're a reporter, that you've got a background in reporting, and I just find your show and all your guests, like Jim especially, and Bobby and Dave, I think it is. I listen to all the time, and, you're great.
Joan Esposito, weekday afternoons 2 to 5 on WCPT 820.
Because facts matter. You're listening to WCPT 820.
Hey, it's Patty here, reminding you that Minocqua Brewing Company's progressive beers like Maga Tears IPA, Biden Beer, and the LGBTQ-inspired Love Wins Fruited Sour are now available at Chicagoland locations like Armanetti Wine and Spirits in Woodstock, Beer Shop in Oak Park, McLean Liquors in South Elgin, Beer on Central in Evanston, and My Buddies, a pride-friendly bar on Clark in Chicago. Don't forget to drink and vote responsibly. Gwen Levey and the breakdown with Barefoot and Pregnant. Gwen is going to join us a little bit later. I realize I have to clear out a lot of our old music and ads because they're no longer. I mean, so we have to reset. At any rate. So, Lady B, I was telling the story, for those of you who now are hearing it for the third time, I apologize. And my husband's like, oh my God, with this story. Because, so I don't know if I've ever explained fully. Remember, I've briefly mentioned, thank you. I briefly have mentioned that I sold a sitcom in 2015, right? So It was after years of like pitching my family story and we kind of we found a way to sort of pitch my personality. And the name of the show and its final variation, it was first Better Half, like whether or not whether I'm the better half of my marriage or my husband is or my mom is a better half, it was a better half. These very complicated and, extraordinarily eclectic people. Anyway, but Patty Happens, the idea being that I can take any situation that could just be something in passing and just make it exponentially worse for people, right? And usually with the good intention of, in this situation, I think my mind was like, I'm going to teach this guy a lesson, right? Which is not necessarily the best way to be in public, but I am living on the surface right now. I just I feel very on edge. I also have a lot of rage that I have to address and manage because I've had white dudes in my life who have been very condescending and patronizing over the last 2 weeks. Now, guys out there that are listening, if I'm not talking about you, I'm not. I'm married to a white guy. My dad was I'm saying the ones that voted for Trump who think that we're overreacting. And it's very hard to differentiate as to who's out there. So when a guy is in my face and says I'm standing too close to his BMW while I'm trying to get the numbers for the parking meter, we're going to have a situation. Right. And I may across the street call you a name. So at any rate, I call him the D word across the street. And then I go in, I tell the ladies at the desk that I'm a little shook because I had an altercation outside with somebody over a parking spot, which I think we've all in Chicago, it happens. This is like my 1,000th time. I mean, I'm sure it's hundreds, but I mean, like, whether it's like in your parking lot or you get into an argument with somebody. Right. I've been fortunate enough, this has been the first time, but it wasn't even over a spot. I was standing too close to his car and he's like, can I help you with something? You're standing by my car. I was like, the most insane thing. So I told the girls I was feeling a little shook. I'm going to go to the bathroom. I come out. He's in the waiting room. So in my mind, I'm like, did he follow me in to continue this?
but then he goes, "What are you doing here?" Like I didn't belong there. And I was so, and then he gives me this, and I go, and I shouldn't have said anything. Or I should have said none of your business, but now I have an audience of people. I know that we, as women, often come across as looking crazy when we are the ones. And I can't imagine as a black woman what that is, people who are so dismissive, challenging, cruel.
Yes, it's very hard to
manage emotions.
Yes, it's very hard, especially when they're trying to take you there.
Yes.
And you don't want to go there. You try, but for some, because I told you it happened to me at Jules, same thing. I'm like, I didn't
do
anything.
Yeah. You're in my business now. Now we're in the lobby of this dentist. I don't want to get into a screaming match with this guy because I know I'm going to come across as looking crazy.
Right. As an angry woman.
Yeah. So he gives me the after you gesture, and I'm like, well, this is not a chivalry thing. I'm like, no, you go ahead. Right. Now we're like, part of it is also like, I don't want him to see the back of me either. I don't want to be vulnerable. Right. So I kind of walk in sideways, and he goes, "Have a nice day." Only then he's in the thing next to me. Like there's like a divider in the dentist. Now I'm like lying down, basically with a partition between us. And I hear, and I was there for a really long time, and the dentist apologized to me. He said that he'd gotten behind. So I was in that chair for a long time. So when the hygienist was working on me, I had my FU ring on. Have I shown you my FU ring? I'll show you it's a beautiful ring.
Okay.
I'll explain that later too. But I have an FU ring. It's a big black onyx ring in Mexican silver. It's beautiful, and it really is. It's a survivor ring that I have. And so when I was lying on in the chair while she was working on me, I heard him getting up, so I knew he was walking by the thing, and I just held my finger like this. I gave him the FU ring, and I just held it there for however long. And the hygienist goes, because I had told her what happened, she goes, "I love you." But then Lady B, I finally finished up. Now, he left about 40 minutes before I wrapped up. He walked out the door. He was gone, right? So I go, I scheduled an appointment. And there's a UPS truck in front of the dentist's office, which would block my view of whether or not he was still in his car. So I wasn't sure. So I stepped in front of he's still in his car with the lights on. He's waiting. I don't know if he's in it, but 40 minutes is a long time.
Yeah. What was he?
I don't know if he was waiting for me. So now I'm scared. And I'm like, I'm not walking out there by myself.
No.
And I could have walked down the street. Like for me, and it's so funny because my brain is like, I could walk down the street. I don't know what this is going to be. So I waited a few minutes. I tell the girls behind they're like totally confused. They want no part of this, and I don't blame them, right?
Right.
They don't want me to bring crazy into their office. And then I see one of the women that works there coming out. She has a jacket on, super cute. They're all beautiful that work there, by the way. And she's coming out, and she's walking toward the door, and I look at the door, and there's a guy, not kidding you, CPD, full SWAT, like the military, like the camo and everything. And I go, "Oh my God, can you please walk me to my car?" And he's like, "Yeah." I turned to the hygienist.
That's so nice.
I told her, "I'm so sorry. I just need him for 2 minutes."
Yes.
And I walked down the street and I told him what happened. He looked at the car. He goes, "You did the right thing." He goes, "You might have not felt comfortable calling the police because that would be sort of we don't know what he did." Or he's like, "But you did the right. You have someone walk you to your car."
There you go.
Yeah, because he goes, "This can escalate."
Yes.
Yeah, but and I told him exactly what happened. And he goes, like, "Is the guy not from Chicago?" Because even the dentist told me he's walked out and seen people leaning on his car, and folks. Yeah. But at any rate, there was a little bit of a buzzsaw he walked in. But I also had to realize when I got home look, I understand the fact that some of you are hearing this for the third time. What I'm telling you is it's also my anxiety. Like everything feels painful because my friend is dying. Because this election, because I feel that we are headed towards some really difficult times. I know that people are going to suffer. I know that people are going to die. And I know that sounds drastic. And for those of you who, again, jump into my feed and are like tutting me and everything's going to be fine, I will tell you that when I went to Springfield, okay, we get dark again. So one of the things that drove me to Springfield every single week for 2.5 years while they were in session
was because when I started getting out there and advocating for Declan and trying to, for not like Declan, someone just messaged, who's Declan? I have a 19-year-old son who has severe disabilities. He will never live independently. He does not speak. He's still matching colors and letters at the age of 19. He does not go to the bathroom by himself. So these are all the things. And so my husband is a full-time caregiver. Everything I do is focused on making sure that he has the best future possible. And my advocacy started first because of therapy that he benefited from was not available to other parents, applied behavioral analysis. We can go round and round on that, but I will tell you the therapist we had for Declan did great work with him, and other parents benefit from that. But some people don't think it's right for their kids, and that's a conversation. Yeah. So I started advocating, and then I got to do a 1-episode documentary kind of thing on the Oprah Winfrey Network about 5 women in comedy. And so they profiled my family and Declan, and 2 things happened. One, a woman from Los Angeles had seen the piece on the Oprah Winfrey Network, and she messaged me, and because I didn't say what his disorder was. I just said he's missing a tiny piece of his brain. Right. And this woman reached out, and she goes, does he have corpus callosum disorder? And I was like, yeah. So we went back and forth. And for her, she had just gotten the diagnosis. So to know that a family could do this, so we could make it, right? And so the tiny piece of his brain that is missing hijacks his full development. That means that it hijacks his communication ability, like it attacks his frontal lobe, just a short circuit in the brain. And like now he's not even really able to walk as well as he used to. So that was for me, like, okay, if one person benefits from my doing something that is out there and open and talking about it, then I can do this. I can fillet myself emotionally in public. But the second thing that happened, and this is what stuck with me, and like the reactions I would get from people in Springfield was like, why did you tell me that? So I want you to brace yourselves, folks, because it is painful, I think. So there was a mother while we were doing our press tour of this show, a story broke out of California. There was a mother, you can look this up. This mother had a 4-year-old child who had autism, and she'd spent tens of thousands of dollars on therapies and decided it wasn't working. And she had decided to take his life and her own. And she drowned him and then was not able to take her own life. And she wrapped him up and took him to the police station and confessed and was sentenced to 15 years in jail. And I remember seeing all of the, online responses to it, that she was a monster and all these things. And what I knew in my heart was that she felt hopeless. And I had seen so many parents, and we've talked about this. I'd seen so many parents at that time, that would be like 2012, I think we did that. So Declan was 7. And I had a community of parents, and I could see like there's so many different levels of managing it, and some people who focus on like making sure they get the best services, and some people who are like angry at the world. Or the one that always made me catch my breath, and you and I have talked about this, the ones that always wondered if it was their fault, if they could have done something differently. And I think there's a place in there where there can be a mental break. And all of those, obviously, because our divorce rate in our community is over 72%. A lot of single parents trying to make their way through this world, this very, inconvenient place. Because our kids are with us when we're living our lives. We're fine. It's the challenges, the obstacles in our way, the questions, the stares, the lack of support. And so that was why I went to Springfield every week, was that I knew if parents lost these services, if families were not able to provide the way they had been able to get kids to a certain point, that lives were going to be lost in whatever way that was. And I will tell you that has happened. There was a woman who took her, she had lost all of her services. There were some parents that lost respite. They lost physical therapy. I remember meeting one parent, her child had just at the age of 7 learned how to wave, and then the services were stopped. Right. And so that's a backslide. And sometimes our kids never recover from that. When you invest in kids like ours, you make it possible so that they can live to their potential. Yes. And every slide back is
years of
catching up.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, where my emotion is the dread of, I just know for our community alone. I mean, Donald Trump has said, 45 has said that he said to his nephew, who has an adult child who's very much like Declan, why don't you just let him die? And so it's, that's
what drove me to run for office and made me tireless and relentless. And it is, I will tell you, what drove me to Wisconsin every weekend to talk to our neighbors in Wisconsin, to plead with them. And I know that everybody who goes up there was going up there or going to other states, that they had their one thing. And that's what I tell people. And I need to talk to the Democratic Party, because they give us like these very onerous scripts of like when we go door knocking. And if you're not used to it, you're like, oh, I guess this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm just like, I go and me and Katowski and Adam Selzer were like, do you have a plan to vote? Like, we connect with them rather than, are you planning to support Kamala Harris? It's very sort of clinical. And I get that it works for their data and stuff like that. But I think that what Rick Smith was saying earlier on Joan's show, like we're not connecting with people. The fact that that people saw the choices and went, yeah, that seems good to me. Like I can't wrap my mind around it. It is heinous on every level. So that's what I've been dealing with emotionally, I think. And I started binge watching Gilmore Girls today. Like right after work, I clocked out and I put on the pilot episode. I'm like, I'm going to have to live in Stars Hollow for a few weeks. Have you ever watched the show?
No.
I think you might like it.
Okay, I'm going to check it.
It is Whitey McWhite. I will be honest with you.
Okay.
I mean, it is, but it's the family relationships that I really enjoy. Do you remember? It's so funny because it took me a long time to realize. I didn't, even though I watched it. Do you remember in Dirty Dancing? Jennifer Grey's mom, baby's mom.
Right.
She plays Emily Gilmore. She is phenomenal. Edward Herrmann is fantastic. Lauren Graham is great. Okay. I think you might enjoy it. It's very fluffy. It is. It's just. It's definitely first world problems kind of stuff. It's an older series, but yeah. I
gotta watch it.
The dialogue is very crisp and stuff like that. I have actually, when I have pictures of when I used to try to pitch my show, I was on the Warner Brothers lot. They still have a lot of the locations for Stars Hollow, like Luke's Diner and Miss Patty's dance studio, and like the Gilmore's little house. Yeah.
Oh.
So that's going to be my assignment to you, Lady B. I don't know about for everybody else, but I know, Lady B, I think that you might enjoy it.
Okay, I'll check that out.
Because I need something. I need my therapist says I'm doing okay, but I can't, like, my skin hurts all the time. And then on top of it, sorry guys, you mentioned, I just mentioned this, a little bit of menopause going on.
Yeah.
Like I'll like all of a sudden like my everything is on fire. Everything is on fire. My soul's on fire. At any rate, so that's what. But Lady B, what do you think you and I, between you and me, everybody else can eavesdrop. I mean, do you feel angry when you're out in public?
Yeah,
around strangers.
I'm more like I have to be cautious and look around.
Yeah, you feel unsafe is what you're saying.
Unsafe,
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's that's what's going on. Maybe that's why I feel angry, is because they're making me feel unsafe.
Yes.
Yeah.
And and sometimes it's hard to describe it, but it's like I'm scared again. Like 2016, I'm worried. I'm constantly, okay, how am I going to survive this time, these 4 years?
Yeah.
How am I going to, okay, they're talking about taking away health care, my baby. How am I going to do this? And then especially when I've been through and still got to go to my oncologist and take Jessie every year, make sure she's okay. It's hard. I'm like, what if they take all this away from me? What am I going to do then?
Yeah.
What am I going to do?
Yeah. Is she on Medicaid?
Yes.
Okay, she's on Social Security disability as well?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
But I'm just worried because remember, he did say he wants to take away the Social Security for the seniors and disability.
Disabled, yeah.
Yeah, so how am I going to survive and cover these medications? Because if, like I said, Biden, under Biden administration, my asthma pump went down. I'm no longer have to worry about paying the rescue $300. It's $75. The regular pump is $35. So I'm fine. And with Jessie, I don't have to worry about paying copay, taking her to the doctors, making sure she's fine. Her medication is covered. But if all that gets taken away,
Yeah, you're right. And here's the thing is, like, there are those who tell us that we're overreacting. Only even the people who voted for it, who thought, oh, he's going to get rid of Obamacare because they didn't know that that's the Affordable Care Act, right? Like, I don't want the whole thing like, well, they're going to regret the day that they're never going to, either they're not going to believe it or they're not going to absorb it. I guess it's the same thing. But because they're going to be lied to that it was somebody else's fault, that Trump couldn't get it done or whatever. 45. I guess I remember calling him 45. I can't. I can't with it.
It's just, I don't understand how people believed him if he's been lying since, I don't know when, but since I've known and heard of him, he's been lying left and right. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yep.
We'll see. But again, I don't feel safe. And, I just don't. So I can't help but worry. I can't help.
Yeah.
You know, and people, I've noticed that they're more bold and not attack, but like, what do you, who told you can park there? Like, you do not own this place.
Yeah,
the parking
exactly.
space. Oh, like, good Lord. I was like, okay.
Yeah, that's insane.
It is. So,
let's see. Hi, Patty. I don't have kids with as severe problems as yours or others, but I do have 2 boys who need extra help. I can't even imagine having the services available to us that we do have unavailable. Not having the services.
Right.
Yeah, we can't imagine it.
Right.
Yeah, someone just got upset that I was sharing personal stories. I guess it might be their first time listening that we don't.
But you know what? I love that you share your story because there's so many new moms there. Well, not many, but you don't know if that new mom is going through what you and I are going through, or what are services out there.
Right.
You know, if they take away, I get service. Jessie still wears her deep pants, adult pull-ups, and if that take that away, you know how expensive that is. That adds up.
Oh yeah,
that adds up.
Ooh, maybe I need to stock up. It's daunting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I guess some people don't like to learn like different perspectives. So it may not be everyone's cup of tea, but I hope they'll give us a chance again.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. Let's take a break here. And the phone lines are open 773-763-9278. That's the number to call or text. And because I'm not an automaton. This is a conversation, but I also share my story as it relates to what's going on in the world. More in a moment.
Hey Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez on WCPT 820.
I just got a text from a listener. Again, our text line is open, 773-763-9278. Thank you so much for the kind words about my family and my dear friend Kristen, who they have decided to make the painful choice to make her as comfortable as possible and ceasing her chemotherapy. Just a really beautiful woman who I wish, she's the kind of person that is so magnificent. I feel sorry for everyone who has not had the pleasure of being in her company to see her laugh, her sense of humor, her brilliance. So, at any rate, thank you for the kind words in regards to her and to our progress with Declan. Another listener texts in, is there a list, let me get this. Dear Patty, is there a list of companies we can boycott that supported Trump? And yes. As a matter of fact, we are going to start collaborating. Every Monday, Kirk Bangstead is going to have a guest writer on his in his newsletter, and we are collaborating with a website, or there's a sort of this landing spot called GoodsUniteUs.com. That's GoodsUniteUs.com. GoodsUniteUs.com. You can also download it as an app, and if you're shopping for something, if you're curious about a company that you deal with, your airlines, your home building supplier, those kinds of things, they have a list of who tends to donate. And believe me, a lot of these companies donate to both, but they'll give you a list of companies that primarily or more than 50% go towards Democrats. Some companies that have like a perfect score, whether that's not not contributing to either party or to Democrats and not to Republicans. So that's goodsuniteus.com. And I encourage you to sign up for Minocqua Brewing Company's newsletter, because I wrote their first Mocha Monday. That's Mocha Monday. And I just did my first one, From Despair to Determination. So that was my first piece I wrote. So go to MinocquaBrewingCompany.com, sign up for the newsletter, and you can get discounts on a lot of great stuff, as well as a lot of the great work that we do, and information about companies like GoodsUnitas.com. 773, Patty, also explain to your listeners what respite care is. A lot of people are not familiar with what I found out. I've worked with special needs families for years. So thank you. So respite care, let's say that there's it can range from a few hours a month to, I believe at the time, like in order to give parents the opportunity to work outside the home, to take a break from caring for somebody. We are in the middle of a caregiving crisis in this country, actually globally, because we underpay and undervalue the people who provide those services. And in addition to that, primarily the weight of caregiving rests on families. And it is, I remember seeing this quote that parents of kids with disabilities have the same level of PTSD as Vietnam vets. And every family has a different sort of way of explaining this. A lot of us are just in there doing the work, and so we don't stop and sort of evaluate what our emotions are. And we do need to do some of that self-care. Respite gives us that opportunity to go to work, to take a break, to go on a date with your spouse, or go on a date to socialize, to be around friends. I remember we got a text here one night angry at me that I was abandoning my husband to go door knocking in Wisconsin. And the thing is that, like, I don't socialize with my friends as much as I used to. I don't go out the way I used to, because there is a lot of work to be done. And I do want to make sure that I'm there for my husband. And because he is such a magnificent human being, of course he deserves my love, my attention, my respect for what he has to sacrifice in order to make our lives possible. So respite gives you that ability to take care of yourself so that you can take care of your family as well, in particular, your child with a disability. And when Governor Rauner was in office, he made draconian cuts to so many programs. I remember there was a mom from Peoria. She was 82 years old with a 43-year-old son who his only word was mama. That was the only word he could speak. And she was testifying in a committee hearing about how she didn't know what she was going to do. She was able to still care for him with the support of respite workers in her home to take care of her son. And she said, my neighbors try to help me, but there's only so much my neighbors can do. I'm widowed. I'm actually here in Springfield, not only to testify, but to see my husband's grave. I'll never forget her. She was fantastic. And I remember walking out of the committee hearing with her and saying, thank you for letting me know that I can make it. And that's why I tell these stories, is that you can do this. It's very hard, and there are ways to get through this. And that's what we're going to do for the next 4 years when I talk about the challenges we're all going to face. All right, Jim, I promised our angry texter that I was just talking about myself that I would take calls. How you doing, Jim?
Hi, Patty. How are you? All I can say is, to thy own self be true, Patty. Honest to goodness, I have never seen anybody abused in my presence in my life. Never. My mother used to say, Jimmy's got a bell in his head. because I could never tolerate anybody being abused. I just
me neither.
And going forward, how many people have been sacrificed on the altar of capitalism when you think about it? And now we have these capitalists, these extreme capitalists in control of our government. I don't even want to name them. There's so many of them. Because when I was a kid, believe this or not, we used to take the encyclopedia down. We look up billionaire. We go, ooh, a billionaire. Yeah. Well, a billionaire could buy Lincoln Continentals and stretch around the earth 7.5 times, bumper to bumper. You could drop $1 in a well from the time Christ was born to the year 3000 and stuff. I mean, just insane amounts of money. Joseph Kennedy at that time was one of the richest people in the country, but he only is worth a couple $100 million. But now it's billions upon billions upon billions. And what's really strange about it is they want to interject themselves into our political system.
Not just interject it, but manipulate it and control it for their own benefit.
Yes, that's what really gets me. why would you want to go to your grave with that on your soul? I don't understand how people could do that.
Yeah.
Joe Ostro was the last guest on Jones today, and he put it right on very succinctly said that he compared him to Putin. You know, he has complete fools around him. He doesn't want anybody who's going to challenge his authority. If he does challenge his authority, he'll get rid of him. I mean, you saw him in some of these things. The guy acted up. Oh, beat him up or give him a rough ride in the station or whatever it is. And here's a guy, Patty, I can honestly tell you, he has never had a fist fight in his life. I could bet my life on it. I bet my life on it right now.
Yeah.
He's never confronted anybody directly in his life. But the point is, we got 4 years of this torture, and we've got to just fight it like it's a war, just like it was. You know, every war seems to last 4 years. It's the First World War, the Second World War. No matter what war it is, even the Crimean, you go back to almost any war. There's always 4 years of it, and people want to be free, Patty. No matter what.
Yes.
No matter what, we want to be free. That's just our nature, and so they can do their darndest here, but. I'm not going to watch anybody abuse. I'm not going to watch any poor immigrants being railroaded or any of that stuff. I'm not going to stand for it.
Yep.
I'm just not going to stand for it. And that's all. And I'm just going to be myself and just carry on.
But do it safely. Okay.
Yeah, no, well, that'll be the day, Patty. I've never been safe, so I'm not going to start being safe now.
I know, me and you both. I mean, we got to watch ourselves. You know, I've been so many fist fights that, for God's sake, I forget about it. I've been barroom brawls. I've had guns pulled at me. I mean, you name it. But it doesn't scare me. It doesn't scare me at all because I would rather be myself and not take the abuse from anybody and go to bed at night and be myself. Anyway, Patty, thanks a million. Thank you so much, my friend. Jim, take care. Let me get to Albert, who is calling for the first time. Hi, Albert. My apologies for making you wait. How are you doing, my friend?
Do me a favor, sweetheart. You got to talk a little slower.
Okay.
I'm 91 years of age. I know just about every subject you want to know.
Okay.
From the war, World War II, politics, daily, anything you want to know, I know all about it. I lived it. I lived every part, and I can tell you. Now, what you're talking about marriage, I can tell you exactly where you're going wrong, and you keep saying, my husband, my husband, my husband, my husband. All right, you're a husband. You're a success, but I'll tell you about other husbands. I'll tell you what's going on, okay? So let's stick with them. I'll stick with the marriage first. Because I was going to talk to Joanne about Tony. She knows somebody, Tony Borsellino. I think I know him. And she praised him a lot, so I couldn't get in the show. But I'll tell you about what's going on here now, which I can probably save a lot of people. Now, see, when I was in Korea in the 40s.
Hold on a second, Albert, so I appreciate that you want me to speak slower, and I appreciate that, but I need you to focus. So you want to tell me where I'm going wrong with my marriage. We can live there for a moment, because I don't know.
I'll tell you how to do it. I'll tell you what marriage is all about, because doctors are asking me about my secret. I'm married 72 years. You got to be curious. How did you do it, Alberto? They're telling, what's your secret, Alberto? And you know what? My wife has doctors that examine her, young ones, and they come up to me and say, Alberto, what is your secret? You and your wife, at that time we were married about maybe 70. And said, okay, let me ask you, are you going out with somebody now? Yeah. I said, how long have you been with her? They said about a year, 2 years ago. I said, move on. You're a drive-by.
Okay.
You're not the... I said, you're a drive-by. Then I asked somebody else, let me ask you, how long have you been with your wife? Oh, about 3 months. Okay. You're the one I want to talk to. He said, here, in a marriage here, here's what you're doing. If you love your wife, so if you love this person a lot and she loves you, that's all that counts. Let her make 52% of the decisions. And they come at me and say, what do you mean? I'm a doctor. Hey, wait a minute. I work with you guys 50 years. You got eagles. I've been at your marriages, and I've been at your divorces 5 years later. And you put your wife down. So here's what you do. If it's a good marriage, good person, because you love somebody, she loves you, she'll make good decisions. The only decision you have to make is maybe about your children. That's what we did. Uh-huh. They didn't want to do their homework, but we were good at each other. So that's the important thing. Excellent. Let her make the 52, and you make 48. They got mad at me.
I love it. I think that's good. That's good advice, Albert. Thank you so much. So, for Albert, would like us all to know that the wife should make 52% of the decision. I've got to run to a break, Albert, so I can take some more phone calls. We appreciate hearing from you and look forward to next time you call in with some more advice. Let's take a break here. Our number is, we've got a few phone calls, so let me get to everybody before we take more calls. Let's take a break.
WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter.
Patti Vasquez is taking your calls now at 773-763-9278. Driving it home with Patti Vasquez now on WCPT 820.
Thank you so much for joining us as we continue to drive it home. We've got Vicky from Villa Park on the line. Vicky, thank you so much for calling in. What's on your mind, my friend? Vicky, are you still there? Did you mute me? Did you mute yourself? Vicky. Red Rover, let Vicky come over. I know she's there. I have her rolled up. I have that. That's on. Right. Sounds like we're getting a little bit of something, right? Let's take another phone call while we let Vicky get a chance to come back, and we'll get to Helen in Huntley. Hi, Helen. How are you doing today? What's on your mind, my friend?
Hi, Patti.
Hey.
First, I'd like to say I'm sorry about your friend, and I hope all the prayers and everything help her.
Thank you.
And then I would like to say your thing with the guy with the BMW or whatever.
Yeah.
I would like to think I would have said to him, mind your own damn business, and I'll mind mine. But these days, I don't know if say stuff like that. But the real reason I'm calling is I won the Paint Your Pumpkin contest.
Hey, congratulations.
And I called to tell you thank you very much. I talked to David yesterday, and I really appreciate that you put that on. It was very nice.
Of course. And we're so glad to showcase the great work you all did, and it was beautiful. Tell folks a little bit about the pumpkin that you won with, if you want to, like what inspired you. And again, folks, we'll have more contests. So Helen's a great example of engaging and being a part of this community. Tell folks about your pumpkin.
Well, first of all, it's orange, so it had to be a Trump pumpkin.
Yep.
And I'm a amateur painter, so I painted his face on it, and then I put black tape in a diagonal across his face, and I put some blonde hair on and a red cap that said blah, 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 and then all the symbols for swear words.
It was brilliant. I love it. I love it.
And named it Smash the Strumpkin.
See? Fantastic. And there were quite a few submissions, so congratulations on that. We really appreciate you joining us for that, and I'm so glad that you won. And, it's a little something to brighten these sort of dreary fall post-election days.
Yes. Well, anyway, thank you very much.
Of course.
And I hope things improve in your future and all of ours.
Exactly. All of ours. We're all in this together, my friend. Have a wonderful evening. I look forward to hearing from you again, okay?
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Take care. Let's see. Vicky in Villa Park. Are you there, my friend? Hey, Vicky. Oh, no. We'll try again. Hi, Vicky. Vicky. Okay. I wonder if we just connect her. She'll call back. I don't know. Or we call her back because we have her number there, right? I don't know. We'll see. Let me get to Randy in Kentucky. Hey, Randy. How are you doing, my friend? What's on your mind?
Well, what you were saying, is he really going to get rid of Medicare and Medicaid? I always do that.
Well,
and SSI?
Well, and the SSI. So I know that, so he has put Dr. Oz in charge of the organizations that manage Medicare and Medicaid. And Dr. Oz's opinion, and one of the things that they have been trying to do, they have said that they were going to eliminate the Affordable Care Act and minimize the funding for, hold on, I have a whole thing on this. But one of the things they're going to do is change the way in which it's funded, right? Whether they have said they wanted to eliminate Affordable Care Act. They wanted to change the funding for Medicare and Medicaid. I know for the Affordable Care Act, what they have said now, one of the ways in which they're imagining it is right now, the burden of cost for people who are on Affordable Care Act, I think at the bare minimum, is 8% of their income, right? What they're going to do is change the funding formula so it will be 20% of your income. Yeah, 20% of the income is the stats that we have based on my research.
Let me say about me.
Go ahead. Of course, thank you.
I have cerebral palsy. I have seizures practically every day. One of my pills cost $1,000, I believe, like a piece.
Yep.
Thankfully, Medicaid takes care of it. But, and then I live alone, so I'm trying to figure out if they got rid of both of those, well, that would be a lot of folks just on the street.
And that's exactly right. Oh my! What's appalling? I mean, this is what, again, we had really drastic cuts to a lot of social services in Illinois back in 2015. We had no budget, and a lot of people suffered, and are still trying to. This 9 years later, still trying to come back from some of the losses that they suffered. And I will say that we have bounced back in Illinois. So I want people to know that community engagement, focusing on it's hard because we don't know what's coming yet, Randy, right? So I don't want you to live in despair, but I want you to find ways to be prepared. Do you work with a case manager?
I do have a person who kind of just doesn't necessarily take care of me, but keeps track of me.
Yes.
Make sure I have certain things.
Do you have a decent relation, like communication lines with them?
Yeah, I do. But here's the thing. I was just thinking, like, in my brain, because I take care of myself okay.
Right.
But, like, you take away that, it's like $800 or something a month or whatever.
Right.
And then, they take care of the medication for the most part. Some of them will cost, like, I don't know, $10 a month or something. But you take away all that, I mean, I might as well sit there on the street curb, just
because
wondering what to do with my life because, there's, I don't know, move into, like,
right.
family or, I don't know.
And so one of the first thing I would do.
Old.
What was that?
Well, like 40,
Right. First thing I would do is just talk to your case manager so that you can have that reassurance of that everything is like they might be hearing some rumblings of what the process is. And the hard part is that you're in Tennessee. So you have, a state legislature and a governor. Huh? I'm sorry, Kentucky. Oh, Kentucky. So Kentucky, you're actually in.
No, we have pretty good care.
Yes. Okay, so that's good because you have Bashar, correct? That's your governor.
Yeah. We
great.
have, like, I'm trying to think. Back when Obamacare, whatever, the Affordable Care Act happened, our governor actually did go in and do it all right, if I remember correctly.
So I would say this. The really good news is you have Governor Bashar, who has been a champion for human services and health care for your state of Kentucky. So I think that, while the problem is going to be funding, I think that a lot of these blue state governors like Pritzker, Whitmore, Newsom, they're going to find a way, I believe, to make sure that they can protect the services that are already there. So it's important. And I'm not telling folks who live in other states to move because who knows? At the federal level, anything can change, and because they've captured all three. But I would say first talk to your case manager and just let them know that you're concerned as well, so that they, hopefully they're making preparations. Because look, that's also their jobs. I'm sure they're looking around and trying to figure out what is the landscape for them. Okay, so that I will you do me a favor? Will you take down my email and email me so that I can keep we can sort of check in with each other. So that way it helps me know what's happening in other states as well. Okay, Randy?
Yeah. So far, it's all good.
I know. So far, it's all good.
It's not in office yet.
No. I understand. But I just want to check in with you, whether you call in, but take my email if anything comes up you want me to know about. My email for everybody is Patti Happens. And I'm not always great, but I do get the emails. It's Patti Happens, like poop happens. But not that word, right? Like when it hits the fan. So Patti happens @gmail.com. Okay?
Okay.
All right. I just want to know, because I do think that you're in a better state than if you were someplace where their General Assembly or the governor is going to roll over whatever Trump wants to do.
Huh? Tennessee would be TennCare, I believe. And I've heard it's bad.
Yeah.
TennCare is what it's called. I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
I haven't lived there, though.
I'm so glad you called, though, because I do want to know, because that helps us amplify what's going on in other places. Okay, Randy?
Yeah, and the other thing that worries me is I'll be going. I go to like they're trying to figure out my brain. So
sure.
I go to like KU, you know, where I have like neurologists and all these nurses looking at me and all that stuff, and I have no idea how much that would cost on its own.
I hear you.
You know, it'd be out. It'd be like, no, I guess I can't do that no more. You know.
No, I get it. Well, although, so when you say when you say they're trying to figure out your brain, are they also are they inviting you in as from learning from you? Because if they're benefiting from you,
yeah, they are.
Yeah, so they're
learning a little bit, but
then
they're trying to find like where it's coming from, the seizure,
right?
And I think it's called an RNS or something. They want to put wherever that is so it can stop the seizure before it happens.
Right. Have they ever have you ever heard have they ever mentioned anything about your corpus callosum? I'm just curious. I'm always curious about that part of because they often do, like, that's what they disconnect sometimes for folks who have seizures, but it's also sometimes a source.
You're talking about the midline. When I was young, I would not let them touch cut my brain open.
No.
And
but
you're right. Where they cut it in half. Your two lobes will not
communicate.
Interact. Is that what you're talking about?
Yep. But have they ever examined that part of your brain to see if that might also be a source of the seizures? Do you know?
Yeah, they have been doing EEGs and MRIs and all this stuff, and they say it's like really close to that area, which scares them and scares me as far as any type of surgery or
I would imagine
any of that stuff.
Yeah, no, it's so dicey, and even they would. From what I understand, even neuro specialists, don't know everything that they need to know. That's why they're learning from you.
Yeah, I mean, it's. But I don't do that all the time. I just do that. I do have a normal life.
Sure.
But if it takes all that away, then there is no normal life. There's just
So
I don't know.
Yeah, the first thing I would also talk to that research facility, the neurologist there, and tell them some of your concerns and if they have any thoughts on that. What can't hurt, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Say, hey, what happens? Yeah, ask them. Hey, what happens if you guys, if I lose my funding for my health care, and if they're, they still need to do research.
They'll have plan. I don't know.
Yeah.
Normally there's something they can throw at you, but I don't know, what that would be.
Yeah.
Right now.
Well, check in with me, all right?
All right.
And but first check in with them and see what's going on. Thank you so much, my friend. Good to hear from you, Randy. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
Yeah.
Let me get to Dave in Hoffman Estates. We're going to have our good friend Gwen Levey on in just a few moments. I want to get through all of our calls. Gwen, I hope you don't mind. What's on your mind, Dave in Hoffman Estates?
I was telling Lady B, I was digging through some of my old emails, and this is back from 2012 that I had emailed myself from the Army Times.
Uh-huh.
And you know how Hegseth is trying to diminish and the women, for military, for combat and that. Well, this one happened to be, these are facts as of May of 2012. 135,000, the number of female soldiers who had deployed in Iraq or Afghanistan. 400 Valor Awards they had earned in these theaters of operations, to include 2 Silver Stars, our nation's 3rd highest award. 77 women in combat arms, the infantry, armor specialties, had been killed in action. Remember, this is 12 years ago, so when Hegseth wants to demean and diminish women warriors, he of all people should know better. He had been at both of those theaters and that. And and this was, like I say, just Army. Your friend in that, Representative Kippel, being a Marine, they may even have more, but this was just of Army and that. And so it just, I just kind of thought I'd throw that out there for you, with the...
Yeah.
About that. And about that guy, you should play that song, I'm in Love with My Car, from Queen. Have a good one.
Thanks, Dave.
Good night.
Appreciate it. Thank you. And our good friend Dan Schaefer, the co-host of The Politini and the host of Tuesdays with Josie, available wherever you listen to your podcast. How you doing, Dan?
I'm good. How are you, Miss Patti Vasquez?
You know, I'm hanging in there.
I know. I tweeted it, or I texted into the WCPT line about you talking about your altercation, and I said I pity the fool who tries to cross you because I know what you're capable of, and that person was a fool.
So, yeah, you know how they talk about.
I understand that you were feeling the way that you were feeling, and you're allowed to feel that way. But I would put my bets on you. Yeah.
You know how we talk about like 80-year-old ladies who like just say whatever's on their mind, like they don't care anymore. I hit it at 50. I'm just like, nah. You know what? I don't know if I'm gonna make it to 80. I'm not taking any chances on that. I'm telling you, I'm gonna share my thoughts.
You can back it up, so you're fine. You can do that. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I was listening to you guys talking about caregiving. I was talking to Lady B when she was screening the call, and Kamala Harris had a plan for the sandwich generation who are taking care of their kids, but now also to take care of their parents. There was a plan that she had in place. Donald Trump, I don't even think he said that he had a concept of a plan like he said or claimed to have for the Affordable Care Act. I was talking on the phone today with somebody. I was like, honestly, I do not know a single policy initiative with this new administration.
Yep.
Other than mass deportations.
And owning the libs. That's the policy.
I don't understand.
Yeah.
That is a policy. Is it the right policy? Probably not. But I don't understand. And then, I do think that I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I do think that they are being very strategic. There's a strategy in place here, right? So Dr. Oz is going to head Medicare and Medicaid. Clearly one of the most qualified people to do that. I'm joking.
Mm-hmm.
Matt Gaetz is going to be the Attorney General. Hopefully not. What people are forgetting is, and Tom Hartman talked about this, and I was just researching it while I was on hold, Don Gaetz, Matt Gaetz' dad, was vice chairman of a company that defrauded Medicare to the tune of millions of dollars, and there was a secret settlement in 2018, confidential settlement they called it. And so it's like, okay, so this is going to happen, and then the Attorney General knows how to deal with this because his dad has done this before, and there's just all of the. I think that people are saying like, oh, he's just picking up all of these TV personalities and this and that. No, I do think that there is some strategy behind all of this stuff. And I don't know if they're going to be approved. I'm hoping some Republican senators don't do it or not. I don't know.
I have no faith in anything right now except for each other. You and Lady B and my circle of friends and the people I do the advocacy with. And I would say,
yeah.
I don't trust
any of them. I told Lady B, I was like, we're not letting this country go without a fight. So I'm here for it.
That's right.
I'm here for the good fight.
Exactly. I'm glad to be in the fight with you, Dan. I got to have you come in one of these days.
Yeah.
Let's talk about when that.
Yeah, let me know. Anytime. All right.
Thank you, Dan.
Love
you
everybody.
too. Thank you so much.
Good night.
You too. Let's take a break here. We have Gwen Levey on the line from Gwen Levey and the Breakdown, and let's see how she's doing. We haven't talked since the election. Oh my God. All right, more in a moment.
Driving it home with Patti Vasquez, Patti Vasquez.
From global conflicts to greenhouse gases, the folks refusing to wear masks says, and politicians getting caught grabbing asses says, she's driving it home with Patti Vasquez.
Hello, and thank you for driving it home with us. And we want to welcome our friends listening in the evening on KTNF AM 950 Minneapolis, St. Paul, the progressive voice of Minnesota. And I want to thank our good friend Gwen Levey for being patient. I'm running a few minutes late. She is a singer-songwriter, award-winning singer-songwriter with Gwen Levey and the Breakdown. Hey, Gwen, we've had a couple weeks to absorb all this. How are you doing?
I'm doing.
Right? Yeah.
I'm going. I'm happy to be talking to you. I know we haven't talked since the election. So, I think like a lot of America, I'm just, getting over the devastating feelings that I've been feeling, but also trying to remain hopeful and optimistic at the same time when that seems almost impossible sometimes. So, just trying to stay in that like headspace. I know after the election, I was hitting social media really hard because survivors for Harris's a group that we talked about before that I'm a part of that turned into a more bipartisan movement called Rise Above Justice movement. So we were just like pushing really hard after the election, and I kind of was just like, I'm on social media too much, and I just ended up taking a little break for my own mental health and kind of I'm trying to go inward. Winter is that season where you go inward. So it's just kind of, like I said, trying to stay positive and channel all my emotions into this new album that we're making. And I'm actually at the studio right now. So, yeah.
Apologize to all the musicians and producers and everybody that I kept you long. Sorry.
Oh, no, it's fine. It's all good. I'm just so happy to talk to you.
Me too. And so to that about social media, like I think today's like the second time I've posted since the election, and to your point about this coalition of survivors was first Survivors for Kamala, and now has sort of broadened its mission. I think that was something that hit me really hard. The day, and for me, it's look, there's so many layers of when your trauma surfaces, whether it was the election or just the people I was running into the day of the election that sort of triggered emotions and trauma.
Yes.
And, but the day after, like I was sort of dealing with it. And I guess where I was trying to come from, and I made a video which had really just bizarre range of reactions, because I was talking about how I had been, I was abducted and sexually assaulted when I was 4 years old, almost 4 years old. And look, it's a painful, very personal video, and it's very honest. But my point had been, I started out talking about when I was in grade school. I actually started talking about my dad when I was in my 20s. He gave my phone number. He's like, "Hey, I saw your friend Gina at the Walgreens, so I thought you two should stay in touch. So I gave her your number." And Gwen, it was like one of my worst bullies from grade school that he had given my number to, and I'm like, and I just remember thinking, God, I don't want to hear. I mean, just the meanest, like emotionally manipulative and like all this stuff. And she did call. And I it was the 90s. We didn't have caller ID. I didn't have it then. And I took the call. And one of the things that will stick with me for the rest of my life, Gwen, was she said, "I'm not surprised you're a comedian, because no matter how mean we were to you, you were always smiling." And which was weird, right? But the thing I thought was like, is this bitch taking credit for my career? Because that's not what that is.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
But
and the resilience and the strength of survivors, of course you're smiling because you've had to live with your trauma your whole life and overcome.
Yeah. And that's, thank you. See, and that's why I do need to be part of your group. Whatever you need from me, I'm all in, by the way. That's what I'm trying to say as well.
Because we'd be so honored. And there's so many survivor stories that, people, especially after the election, who have reached out to us and are so scared and just so devastated by the fact that we literally elected a proven abuser into office. And then he's, and all his cabinet positions. I mean, there's at least 4 people in his cabinet now that have been accused of sexual assault and sex trafficking. I mean, the list goes on and on. So our work doesn't stop here, very unfortunately, of course. But I think the more we talk about our own trauma, the more it inspires others to do the same. And I'm in a group chat with all the Trump survivors. He has 28 women who've come forward, and that's just the women that have come forward to say that he has sexually abused them, and they're all devastated. Like, it's just, I can't imagine seeing your abuser become the president of the United States again. So just to have this community has been so important, and we've gone back and forth. Should we stop until the new year? But then people keep reaching out to us, and it's like we really need this network for sure. So, we're here for anyone listening at Rise Above Justice Movement. And survivors or allies of survivors, we're here for you.
So it's Rise Above Justice Movement. I'm pulling it up right now. So riseabovejusticemovement.com.
We actually, you know what? We need to make a website. We're on Instagram and Threads and all the social media. That's where we're built. Yeah, but you know what? We should make a website.
I think that so many people are on Facebook. That's something like down the road with funding and things like that. And because people are sharing their stories on social media, I did see this guy. There's so many rage videos, right? And this one guy, and I think this was it that struck me, was that we do need more of our allies. Right. And whether you're not a survivor or men who are disgusted and appalled and angry. And this one guy went on and said, look, I voted for Kamala Harris, not because she was a good candidate, but because the other guy is an adjudicated rapist. And he said, my wife is a rape survivor. And he said, what everybody who voted for 45 did was say, well, if your wife's rapist can save me a few bucks on eggs and gas, I would go with them.
Yeah, exactly. It's a huge slap in the face to survivors. And I mean, so many people, obviously, minorities, women, gay people. It's just a huge slap in the face for sure. And, we've talked about this on your show where, unfortunately had to part ways, as many people have, with people who I've been really close with that, got brainwashed by the cult of MAGA. So it's really painful. And it's just so much to recover from. I feel like we're all in this state of shock, and then also, feeling all the emotions, the stages of grief, because we're really grieving what could have been for our country. So I'm glad to not be alone.
Yes. Oh, no, I agree. And you're right. And the thing is, I don't think I'll ever reconcile the number of women that voted for him too. Like the guys,
no,
right? That there's
over 50% of white women.
Yep.
It's just really, really, I have to say, embarrassing. Like I just, they're voting against themselves. They're voting against people who, help them and uplift them. It's just very disappointing.
It really is. And and this was my thing, and this was what I mentioned Election Day and the emotions that were sort of, unleashed that day because, I ran for office here, and this in my anger. So I ran for state rep here in 2020, and one of the things that they tried to they made these negative mailers, and what they put on there, my state representative, she was the appointed incumbent, and they released these mailers saying that I could not be trusted to protect women and girls in the cases of rape and incest. And that came from Democrats, right? To weaponize not just mine, not knowing that I was a survivor, but to use that emotion, that fear and that rage to sort of it diminishes. It sort of it just sort of goes, it makes it disposable. Like what happens to us is the way I felt about it.
It's the putting the shame on the survivors when we really need to be redirecting the shame to the abusers. Right. And I can't remember her last name, but there's a really powerful woman. She's a survivor. She was raped by her husband. And I think it's in France. I believe this is happening. Her name is Giselle. I can't remember her last name. I apologize. But it's a huge case happening there right now. And she's just talking about how that exact thing. She's like, I'm not afraid. Like normally if someone would be anonymous when they, come forward after an assault. But she's like, I want to put this out there because the shame should not be on me. I'm a survivor. It should be on my abuser, my husband who did this to me and then had, was paid by other men to rape me, to drug and rape me. And it's like, that's exactly it. And, unfortunately with Trump, he has just put all this shame on the survivors who've come forward against him. And it's a total way to brainwash people to think, people are like, oh, I can't trust that someone's actually telling the truth. And I'm like, well, people who say that, well, you came forward now. Why are you coming forward now when he's running for president? Why didn't you come forward before? I'm like, well, there's no time stamp on when you come forward. I had assault happen when I was a child, close to your age, Patty. I had it happen multiple times when I was an adult. I didn't start talking about it till very recently. And so there's and it's like this. Are you going to call me a liar? Are you going to say that didn't actually happen to me just because I didn't come forward when I was 6 years old, Right. So there's all this shame that people are trying to put on survivors when, I know I keep saying this, but it needs to be put back on the abuser. And we need to be looking at the reasons, like the reasons why people are coming forward.
Right.
And yeah, exactly. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I apologized in my Facebook Live video to folks who are watching that, like, I'm sorry you never knew this about me. And that it's going to be, painful or uncomfortable, or you don't want to hear it. Like, we had a listener in the first hour who's like, you're just telling your personal story. I'm not interested in this. And then it's not for you. Like, I don't know, you be a jerk about it. Like, it's just like, it's
your show. So.
I mean, I'm a talk show personality. I'm supposed to bring my personality to it as well. I don't every single day share my personal, situations. And I had never, ever been public about what happened to me when I was 4 years old. And I will never forget the fact that my agency, my freedom to decide when to share that, was taken from me by the incumbent state representative, Lindsay LaPointe, at the time. Because, when you put that, here's the thing, it's 1 in 4 women. So if you look around at your campaign manager, Kat Sharp, and now you're at 3 and me, and think about it. And even if it's you as well, like, why would you put that on pay and take responsibility for it, right? Like, so yeah, I'm going to say this, but the thing is, sharing it was, it's hard because I almost feel worse for people who have to learn that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've lived with it,
absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I didn't talk about my story for so long because not only was I, protecting myself, but also protecting my family. It's very painful to hear that this happened to you, to a loved one. And, it affects everybody. And I think that, like I said, the more we talk about it, the more people are going to know that they're not alone. Because, also suicide rates for survivors, too, are very, very high. And I know even after the election, there was, I think, the suicide hotline, specifically the one with the Trevor Project for the LGBTQ plus suicide hotline, went up by 700% after Trump was reelected. So, that just shows how scared people are. Yeah, it's really, really heartbreaking. And that's also why I'm like, well, I'm not going to stop using my voice, because people clearly need to know that they're not alone.
Right. And I think that, because we talk a little bit about the shame as well, or, in my situation, like my poor parents, like it was 1974, 1975. And we didn't have a handle, like we didn't have that. It was so incomprehensible. Maybe, I don't know. Because
people to talk about, like, I'm so grateful to have my parents, because to be able to talk to them about these things, it's not easy. It's taken a long time to be able to accept that this did happen to me. But like my mom said, people haven't really talked about this. This is very new. So I think it's almost like our generation is very focused on healing, and in order to heal, unfortunately, you do have to talk about things. And the thing I do want to say to survivors, if you're not ready to come forward, tell your story, don't ever feel like you're pressured to do that. But if you're ready, just know that your story does help those who need to hear it the most.
So grateful that you said that. I agree. I couldn't agree more. Because I honestly, if I was listening to this show 5-10 years ago, I'd be like, it's just too much. It's too much for me. It's too much for other people. It's a lot. And to your, you mentioned, I felt like, because I also was very public about an aggressive sexual harasser at a radio station I used to work at. And I always had this feeling like, because you mentioned other situations for you, and the same thing, like I was sexually assaulted in a job when I was 17. I was, sexually assaulted when I was 16. And you're like, oh my God. But there is something about whatever that element of predators that seek out certain kinds of victims, because, for me, because I basically was taught not to talk about things, I also didn't know how to prepare myself or, be tougher. I don't know. I honestly don't know how to explain it. But
yeah, I'm right there with you. Like I said, I didn't talk about this for years either. And really what saved my life was therapy, just going and realizing all these layers, like an onion, you're pulling back, and then the memories that you've suppressed, because it is so traumatic, and your body protects yourself by not letting you remember those memories until they come up in different ways, because of other traumas that have happened. So, and yeah, like it's, like you said, and then Trump being reelected, and now men, misogynists, are very, very empowered to go out and say, well, your body, my choice. And, now they say they don't even need permission to have sex with you. They can just rape you because, look, we have a rapist in office.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I mean, obviously, like Matt Gaetz, RFK Jr., they've all been accused of sexual assault. And this is Donald Trump's team who he wants in power.
Yes.
And I think that says a lot about who they are. I know this is nothing new, I'm sure, to everyone listening, but it makes me so enraged. I just feel so much rage right now about everything. And I want to help. I want to do something,
I agree, and also same on the rage. I'm trying to figure out where to. I know I need to take like some sort of classes, like martial arts.
I'm thinking about that too. I need to take self-defense classes.
One of my best friends, Jen Zanatti, would recommend you take jiu-jitsu. I went to watch a class last week, and I'm like, I don't think I'm here yet. I was just like, I also need to punch. I need to kick things. Yeah. So grappling.
I carry around pepper spray.
Yeah.
I have been doing that since Barefoot and Pregnant, since I first started getting death threats because I wrote a pro-choice country song, and people don't like that, So I'm just like, you got to take care of yourself and protect yourself. But also it's hard because you don't want to just hide away at the same time. Because there are a lot of people I know that are deleting their social media.
Yep.
And, I totally understand. And then moving out of the country. And it's hard because it's like, well, I want to stay and fight. I want to keep using my voice. I will not be silenced. But also it's that fine line where you have to be smart about it too. So I'm right there with you.
Yeah. I want to hit things. Gwen, please hang on the line because I want to give you my phone number so we can get in touch with whatever you'd like. Yeah, please. Absolutely. Again, let folks know the website. I mean, not the website. The group on Facebook and other places for them to get more information about survivors working together.
Yeah, it's called Rise Above Justice Movement, and you can also follow me at Gwen Levey Music. That's Gwen and then Levey with 2 E's. And just if you're looking for community and also a place where if you want to get involved, like we would love for you to be a part of our community.
I would be honored. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. So much, Patty. So much love to you. You're amazing. You're the bright light.
You are too. Right back at you, sister. Absolutely. I love the work that you do, and I'm so glad that we're in each other's lives. I really am. Thank you. And again, my apologies to the musicians who are waiting to keep working.
Oh, no worries. They're still working. We've got my producer up there, so we're still rocking and rolling.
Outstanding. I'll talk to you very soon. Hold on the line. Don't hang up. I'm going to give you my number. Stand by. Thank you. Take care. We'll be right back in a moment on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal. Thank you.
Alexa, play WCPT.
WCPT from TuneIn.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez on WCPT 820.
Thank you so much for joining us as we continue our conversation. And, look, here's the thing we've talked about is we're licking our wounds and we're finding out what we can do next. And that means connecting with community and the people that are doing the work of advocacy. Joining us on the line right now is Cliff Albright, who is a co-founder and executive director of Black Votes Matter. Thank you so much for joining us. Cliff, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. So I believe we booked you before we knew what the results of the election were. So I think that we have a lot to talk about here. But first, tell us about the genesis and the mission of Black Votes Matter.
Yeah, so it's Black Voters Matter. We started in 2017, and the mission was really to help, and it's Black Voters Matter Fund, right, which is what we started first. And the mission was really to get some resources to groups on the ground who are doing Black-led groups and Black communities that we know are doing incredible work, not just around election issues, but organizing around racial justice issues all throughout the year. Because we know that those groups exist. They exist in the South. We're rooted in the South. Me and my dear sister friend, Latasha Brown, and my wife, April, we all lived together in Alabama for 10 years. We were used in Selma, Alabama, historic Selma, Alabama. So we were used to, like, doing dope work, and we knew we were dope, but we also knew that we were under-resourced, and we knew that there were other people, activists, organizers, and organizations like that all around the South. So we wanted to create an organization that would get them resources and help to do electoral organizing in a different kind of way, a way that really demonstrates that Black voters matter, right? That's why we named it that, because there's a lot of people or candidates that care about Black votes that don't care about Black voters. We believe that we center our community, that we center the people, we center our voters, and not just the votes. That's how you mobilize people. That's how you get people excited about participating in the electoral process.
I agree. And look, I don't know how what the conversations that you guys are having, but it is heartbreaking to see so many people that stayed home in this past election, and especially when we think about how many battles we have had to make sure that we push back against gerrymandering and voter suppression. What kind of conversations are you guys having in the wake of the last election?
I mean, it varies, and quite honestly, some of the conversations have been hopeful, right? That's not to be like tone deaf or, to ignore the fact that we're in a bad situation right now, this incoming fascist administration, but what we and some of our partners that we work with, and we work with over 600 partners in the 25 states where we do our work, what our partners know is that they did some really great work, that they had a lot of great conversations, that they did mobilize some people, a lot of people, even in the face of like an onslaught of disinformation that was really targeted at getting our folks to not come out and vote. Even in the face of, like you mentioned gerrymandering, all of the voter suppression that our communities are facing, and folks still come out. And so a lot of times what we focus on is not just like, why didn't more people come out to vote? That's true, and we always want more people to come out. But what we also recognize is how amazing it is that so many of our folks continue to come out in spite of all of the obstacles, in spite of the voter suppression, in spite of the disinformation. And we came out and we were able to get, in reality, we were able to get victories up and down the ballot in a lot of states, simply not at the very top of the ticket.
I agree. I'm sorry. I didn't mean I agree that, and I'm with you on that. Not to be sort of flippant about the top of the ticket and what happened, but there were victories that I think lay the groundwork for the pushback in 2026. So I imagine that you're regrouping and retooling for those goals. And also, are you working on, like we in the Midwest, we look at like Supreme Court races. For example, there's a Supreme Court race coming up in April in Wisconsin that we'll be working on. Are those the kinds of things that you also target? Like, hey, this is how we protect our voter rights. This is how we expand our visibility and the kind of legislation that affects our communities. I see on your page it's about, one of the things is about Medicare expansion and things like that, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. It's about, we always say we're just as busy in the odd number years as we are in the even number years, because a lot of times that's where a lot of the organizing, the issue advocacy takes place, the local elections take place, sometimes elections like what you said, you're talking about the upcoming Wisconsin race, but as you know, there was the previous Wisconsin Supreme Court race, which was a major victory, which helped to undo some of the gerrymandering in that state. Right now, there's a recount going on in North Carolina, similar situation for their Supreme Court race. And what we know is that at the end of the day, control of Congress right now is probably going to be about three seats, right?
Yeah.
And that 3-seat difference is equivalent to the flip in North Carolina when their Supreme Court undid their maps, right, which put the state at 7-7, which is about what North Carolina is. It's a 50-50 state. But they had their Supreme Court came in, undid those maps, instituted new maps that made it basically a 10-4 balance in terms of congressional power. That difference in terms of that racial gerrymander in North Carolina, which was dictated by their Supreme Court, that is literally going to be the difference in who makes up control of Congress in this upcoming Congress. So Supreme Court races matter, local elections matter, ballot initiatives and referendums matter, and all of that is a part of how we continue to build towards what we are hoping is going to be a more successful 2026 and then even further on into 2028.
Again, I'm so grateful for the work you do. Folks, we're talking to Cliff Albright, who's a co-founder and executive director of Black Voters Matter Fund. You can go to blackvotersmatterfund.org for information to get involved, support the work that they do. And this is, and you know, have you ever, I don't know if you've ever had the opportunity to meet my friend Todd Belcourt. He's the executive director of Social Change. And he also does work with expungement, with teaching people about warrants. Tell us a little bit about the warrant clinics, because I don't think people realize how this affects lives in ways that we can't even imagine.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for asking about that. Yeah, you know, like I said, people think that, you know, Black Voters Matter does only like voting stuff, right? But as I've said, we do racial justice organizing throughout the course of the year. We call it the 365 work. And one of the programs, that includes, like you mentioned, Medicaid expansion. It includes environmental justice work that we do. Obviously, it includes voting rights. It includes dealing with police violence and criminal justice reform. And one of the programs that we do in the space of criminal justice reform is our warrant clinics, which is basically, I mean, most people know them as like amnesty programs where people are able to get warrants waived, get their driver's licenses reinstated. The difference between our warrant clinics and what most people think of in terms of amnesty programs is ours are community-centered. It's not driven by the local jurisdiction or the police or the DA, although we do actually partner with DAs and judges, because at the end of the day, they're the ones who have the power to wipe away those fines and fees. But we're able to do it in a much more community-centered way, where it takes place not, you know, at the courthouse. It takes place in a community center. It takes place not during the day when people have to take off work. It takes place on the weekend. It takes place where we actually provide child care for folks. It takes place in a context where, like, it's a supportive environment where there's food and information and even music sometimes. It's much more community-centered, but at the end of the day, the purpose is the same. It's to get those fines and fees waived, which literally helps to put hundreds of thousands of dollars back into our communities. It takes that burden off of the people. It helps people get their licenses back, which then in turn helps them to be able to vote or to get housing or to get a job. We had one person, just real quick, who said, you know, they could not get their child, I think this was in Texas, I can't remember, they could not get their child the health care that they needed because the doctors that they needed to see were in another state. And they couldn't do the drive because of their situation with their license being suspended and the fines and fees. And they said when we came in and did this program and got them their license back, and it literally helped him to be able to get his child the health care, the medical treatment that he had been not able to get. That's the kind of impact that it can have on people's lives.
See, these are the things, and you don't have to real quick anything, by the way. This is your segment, just so you know. This is the thing that makes me crazy, is that people don't understand the onerous burden of fines and fees that you're talking about, like the ripple effect that it has, you know, whether it's work or crucially the care that this child needed, you know, and the thing is that like people have warrants and fines and fees for things that like I'll never understand. I've been pulled over for having an expired plate, and it's like you guys couldn't take a picture of that and then send me the fee for that or whatever. Now I got to be in a traffic stop. Now we have to have all of our adrenaline raised because you know you wanted to pull somebody over. I'll never understand that, what it leads to. But the thing is that like, and this, I'm going off on a tangent here. So real quick, it'll never cease to amaze me that people want to, well, you know, if you can't afford the crime, don't commit it, whatever. Or if you shouldn't be doing all these other things. We focus so much on people who are working and trying to like support their families and live day to day more than we care about the millionaires and billionaires who are squeezing us dry in this country and get away with it. I'm sorry. I'm just angry about election results. But
well, you and me both.
Yeah, but it'll never cease to amaze me that people would rather be mad at the folks who have a warrant again, or just can't get their driver's license back, more than they are angry at billionaires and millionaires who cheat every single friggin' day and get away with it. Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like that's the history of America, right?
Yeah.
That's been the case from the time that poor whites were told that the reason that they were poor was because of these Africans that had been kidnapped and brought here and enslaved. But the real problem you have isn't the plantation owner. The real problem you have is these black folks, right? And that's been the history of this country. That was the history throughout Jim Crow. That's the history that we're facing right now. That's the battle that we have against immigration, right? That the real thing that's wrong with this country are these immigrants that are coming here, migrants that oftentimes are working in conditions that border on indentured servitude, right? But that's the reason why this white person, who at the end of the day is doing better than everybody else, right? But the reason that you're not where you want to be is because of these immigrants, it's because of these black folks, it's because of these LGBT people, right?
Yep.
It's about the other. It's about speaking to that grievance, and that's been the history of this country. So what we saw in this last election is nothing new. People talk about we're better than this. This is not who we are. No, this is exactly who this country has been. But we continue to try to bend that moral arc of the universe. We continue to try to make it be something other than what it's always been. And sometimes we win battles and sometimes we lose. And this is a hard loss. I don't want to sugarcoat it, right? This is a hard loss on multiple levels. On an organizational level, we now have organizations that are facing this bill that would allow this new administration to just kill certain nonprofit organizations, not just pro-Palestinian groups, but it can be used against any type of nonprofit organization. So, it's hard in that sense. It's hard in the sense of like these policies that we're going to be having to deal with. Tax cuts for these billionaires while the rest of us get a tax increase. I mean, it's just hard. I don't even want to go into all the ways that it's going to be hard. So I can't sugarcoat that. But what I know is that, at least as a black activist, as a black organizer, as somebody who studies our movements, civil rights movement and others, what I know is we have the power to get through this. We're going to have to learn some lessons and maybe do some things a little bit differently, not drastically differently, because this was not a landslide. That's part of the narrative that conservatives and some in the media want us to have, and even some moderate Democrats, right? It wasn't that. And so there's not a need for us to fundamentally, in terms of how we organize, to just like tear everything up. There's some stuff that we do well, and we know we do it well, and we need to keep doing it more, and we need more resources in order to expand it. So we need to not throw away everything, but we do need to try to add on a couple of things here and there, especially in terms of like this information ecosystem.
Yes. I know a lot of folks talked about that night, and I want to remind folks of, there's always this conversation about, how can white people be a good ally? And I want to say this because I saw my friend Aida Rodriguez. She's a tremendous Latina comedian, and she was asked by a black panelist on a panel, on a show, why did Latinos vote against their own interests? And I think that she put it in a way I probably could not have, which is, and it was like a spark for me, which is that I'm a Latina, but my mom's from Mexico. She did marry an Irish guy, so I present and pass as white. I present as white, but we can escape our whiteness. We can be they already do. During COVID, they didn't capture what the death rates were amongst the Latinos because we are categorized in Chicago as white, and then they realized because frontline workers and things like that. But I think that she has a point that if Latinos are here, and by the way, Latinos, my neighbors, my friends, my community, if I'm not talking about you, I'm not talking about you. But there is sort of like I did it the right way, or I don't want to be we can escape the color part of it. We don't want to be part of the black and brown. Sometimes we're like, no, I want to assimilate. Basically, Latinos are on the verge of basically being like Italians and the Irish and the Polish. and I'm hurt by that, and I want to know how we can do better and be a part of your movement.
Yeah, that's a tough one. It's funny that you talk about this issue, because just today I was looking at some slides from one of our partners here in Georgia. We're based in Georgia, and it was a slide deck. And one of the slides in there was on like the ways that Latinos identify and the differences from 2010 to this year, to 2024. And there was this downward slope where in 2010, 60% of Latinos identified as white. In Georgia, this is specifically Georgia, although I think you probably see some similar stuff in some other states, but 60% in 2010, and this year that number had gone down to like 45 maybe, who identify, ethnically as, or racially as white. And while it's, I guess it's a good thing that's a downward slope, right, from 60 to 45, but that number is so shocking to me, right, that 45% identify with whiteness. And whether that's identifying with whiteness in a racial sense in terms of their own identity, or whether that's identifying with whiteness in a much broader sense in terms of like the white ethos, in terms of the pull yourself up by your bootstraps, or in terms of all of that in terms of identifying with whiteness. Either way, that number is still dangerously high.
Right.
And so, there's several ways that can be addressed, and there's like the good ways and the bad ways. The good ways is basically continuing to be in relationship with one another and having discussions around these issues and really exploring like what is the Latino experience. And obviously there's no one Latino experience, right? You got the Chicano experience, you got the Puerto Rican, it's a diaspora, right? And so, but one way is by having those very difficult discussions. The other way is a much more painful way, and my fear is that's what we're about to go through. Yeah. That's what we're about to witness, right? Which is a shock, the shocking reality of, it doesn't matter if you're good Latino, bad Latino, if you're first generation or 10th generation, right? Trump and Project 2025 are trying to deport everybody.
Yep.
Right. And to the point where it doesn't even matter. They are even trying to denaturalize folks who have become citizens. They want to get rid of that, not to mention getting rid of birthright citizenship. And so what we are about to witness is them demonstrating, is them basically taking away this veil or this notion of whiteness that some Latinos may have. And I'm not saying this out of like wanting to see this happen. It's my fear that what we are going to see is that they're going to make it painfully clear that you cannot transition, enough from being Latino to being white, from being migrant or immigrant to being white, even from being Latino citizen to being white citizen. In their eyes, that's not possible, and I fear that that's what they're about to demonstrate during these next 4 years, unless we're able to mobilize and organize against it.
Well, and that's why we're going to be having you on. I'd like, if you wouldn't mind, can we check in with you like every month? We can set that up with Jerry on the show. I want to keep having these conversations. I want to invite our listeners to be a part of this too, and support the work you're doing. How right now? What's the best way for folks to support the work that you're doing and be a part of this movement?
The best way is to follow us, visit our website. That's Black Voters Matter Fund with a D at the end, like money.org, Black Voters Matter Fund.org. You can follow us on most of our social media. Our handle is usually the same, at Black Voters with an S, MTR, like matter, Black Voters MTR. That's on all platforms, even though we're in the process of getting off of the hellscape formerly known as Twitter. And so, but, where you can find us on Threads, Blue Sky, Facebook, IG, TikTok, and all of that. And that's really the best way because you're able to get, like, our most recent updates. You can see some of the videos from our bus tours. We drive around most of this country in what we call the blackest bus in America. And so you can keep track of, like, where we are and where the bus is. Now, the bus is going to be parked for the next couple of months, but come January, we're going to be – actually, that's not true. Because we still got some elections. We got some runoff elections in places like Louisiana and Mississippi. But, you can look for us. We're active all throughout the year, not just around election time.
Outstanding. We want to help in any way we can, too. So stay tuned, folks. We're going to continue talking to Cliff Albright, the co-founder and executive director of Black Voters Matter Fund.org. And now we encourage you to continue to be a part of this conversation, to support their mission. And I look forward to talking to you again, my friend.
All right. You take care. We'll get through this.
Okay. I'm going to rest a lot. I'm going to go binge watch something fun. Do you watch any shows or movies? What do you do when you...
Yeah, you know what? I'm glad you asked that because literally for the past 2 weeks since the election, I started to binge watch Abbott Elementary because I fell behind by 2 seasons.
Oh,
so that has brought a lot of joy.
Folks, yes.
And I just started Cross on Prime TV. That's the next one.
Oh my God, that first interrogation he does with that guy and the like. Anyway, yes. Well, you know what? We'll talk TV shows and your organization. I also, you know what? Have you ever watched the show The Neighborhood on CBS? With Cedric the Entertainer?
I have not.
Okay.
No, I have
you
not.
guys, I know it's corny because it's a sitcom in front of a live audience and all that stuff. Do not sleep on The Neighborhood. And we're going to have one of the writers on here soon, too, because she's a friend of mine. You guys, The Neighborhood is really a fun show. It's just a nice little escape. It doesn't have the same sort of, I would say, the insightful, but no, it does, though. Anyway, The Neighborhood's also a really fun show. Please, I highly recommend
check it out.
Yes, please. I'll expect a report next month. Thank you, Cliff.
Exactly.
Take care.
Right, take care.
Thank you for everything you do. Take care. Bye. Let's take a break here, and we'll wrap up in just a moment. I don't think you know what? Let me get Eve right now, so then I know how much time I have. Eve, how are you doing tonight, my friend?
Great. How are you, Patty?
I'm hanging in there, my friend. What do you want to talk to us about?
There's so much violence in this world. It can be stopped and at peace in this world.
Well, I think if we keep talking to each other and keep these conversations going, and if we find and I think, as I mentioned with our friend Cliff, find the things that bring you joy, because I
went to church today at dinner.
Yeah, and I think that the teachings of Christ help us a lot, right in our hearts. Yeah. And unfortunately, what we know from the Bible is that from the beginning, of telling stories, we know that humans have been capable of hurting each other. So the most we can do right now is to encourage others to be there for each other. Okay, Eve?
Yeah, okay.
I know it's hard. We're going to get through this, Eve. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye. Let me take a break. I don't know if I have any. I'll see what happens. I'll take care of the breaks after this.
Around the Town, Chicago, with Al Besloff.
My wife wants to yell at me. Jane?
Hi, I wanted to tell you, I think you said Jane Hathaway. It's Anne.
Anne Hathaway. Well, that's Frank said that. That's Frank. That was Frank, but he was thinking of you, that's why. Okay, go back to getting dressed. I knew she was going to call, because I knew she was listening, and you make a mistake, Jane will get you. So every time.
Sunday afternoons at 1 on WCPT 820. Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Because I have to make sure I tell you about what's coming up tomorrow. Tomorrow on Choose Views, Richard Chu's guest is Simon Parkin, author of The Forbidden Garden, the botanist of besieged Leningrad and Their Impossible Choice. That's Choose Views, weekdays from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. on WCPT 820. And also, Jonas Bazito is going to be joined by Eric Zorn of the Picayune Sentinel. So tune in tomorrow. And we also have, she'll have Charles Bethay, exhibition curator at the Chicago History Museum, talking about the Emmett Till exhibit. We have to go to that. Oh, we have to go to that. So that's coming up tomorrow. And don't forget, you can always listen to our shows. If you haven't heard the show live, you can find the show podcast everywhere you find your podcasts. And you get full podcasts or just the interviews. Lady B, thank you so much. Randy Rhodes is up next, followed by Matt McNeil. Love you all.